Welcome to the Once and Future Author Podcast. I'm Stephanie, and I'm so delighted to be joined today by author Beth Roose. You're going to love hearing about her story and how Elf Sparkle came to life. We have her here with Elf Sparkle and the Special Red Dress, and Elf Sparkle Meets Christmas the Horse. Two fabulous Christmas books, but they are so much more than books. And there's a whole, lovely evolution to how they came about and where you can even consider marketing children's books yourself. So Beth, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and thank you for asking me.
Oh my gosh. Well, when I saw Elf Sparkle, I had to have you on the show. You have to take me back to how did Elf Sparkle, become a thing? Was she a dream? Is she a real person?
Well, she is a real person, and it's me. And so, but to back up further, it started with a idea with the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, which is in Northeast Ohio. And it started with a park ranger her name was Karen Kopchik, and she still works there. We had an idea that the railroad that runs through the park, the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad, would benefit from possibly doing a Polar Express program. Well, no one on the train, they're conductors and, they're technical people. So they really had no, but they loved the profitability of potential of doing a Polar Express program. So Karen and I found out, well, more like I found out about the licensing issues and what that cost would look like, and then what it would take to recruit volunteers. The railroad and the park already had a volunteer pool, so that made it a little easier. And within 3 months, we had the Polar Express pulled together. The one thing we knew, we would be reading the Polar Express, and the volunteers would be reading the Polar Express. However, none of them knew how to really be an elf, and none of them had the imagination to be an elf and make it fun. We ran through several readings, beta testing with people to see the reaction, and they all said the same: that is boring. We are not doing this unless it's fun. And of course, everyone goes, can they do the flips down the aisle like on the Polar Express? Well, we knew that wasn't going to happen. Karen had the idea to have illustrations done, off of what the book was, so the volunteers could walk up and down. Somehow she handed being the elf to me. So it was training the elves to be fun, to sing Christmas carols, to, have games. And how I became Elf Sparkle was, most men won't wear glitter, no matter what. So we came up with a game. You had to, guess like who starred in the 1934, Christmas Carol. And so, of course, no man that I've ever met knows the answer to that. So they would miss it, and we'd go from person to person, but whoever missed had to wear glitter. I had glitter, the cream glitter, and I was all over them. And the kids were just having a blast with it. And so it made it more and more fun. And so, of course, I became known as Elf Sparkle. So I embraced that. And I volunteered for 3 or 4 years till I knew that it was going to go well. And then I moved away for my real job. And that's how Elf Sparkle was born. And to this date, the Cuyahoga Valley National Park and the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad still run the Polar Express program. So I will say that how we started this is what turned into a snowball of things. The park approached me and asked if I would be interested in doing a Elf Sparkle animated film. And I was like, Um, well, because they knew I did computers, but I mean, I didn't do animation, and they didn't understand those were two different things. So I helped them understand it. I developed a proof of concept for them, which they loved. And then we decided together that we would go to Hollywood and recruit voiceover talent there, as well as go to Nashville and have top quality Grammy and double award winning artists do the music. So that's how we did it. That's how it began. Um, it just was a lot of fun. And from there, I wrote books as companions for the films too. So in a quick summary, that's how Elf Sparkle was birthed.
Wow. So Elf Sparkle started with a railroad going through a national park, an idea
Yeah.
to turn that into the Polar Express to make some money, a whole
Yes.
bunch of volunteers who were lousy elves, so they needed a head elf, shall
Yes.
we say, and the head elf became Elf Sparkle, who ended up with an animated film series, and then, duh, I guess we should write the book.
Yes. So we did it all backwards.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Here I was.
It was so much fun, Stephanie, doing the Elf Sparkle. I mean, our Santa was and is John Delancey, who any Star Trek fan will know he is Q from Star Trek. I know. And then Elf Snowdorable is Catherine Hicks, and most everybody would recognize Catherine as the mom from Seventh Heaven. She also was in the Star Trek 4 movie. And so she was a Trekkie as well. And then Rob Schneider. I mean, Rob Schneider's Rob Schneider. So he was a blast. He kind of held everything together while we were laying down recording the voices. We call it laying down the voices. And at one point, he was waiting his turn to go into the studio booth, and he came with his people, his entourage, and said, yeah, he had a big one too. And he jumped on the couch, literally jumped, standing up on the couch, and asked, "Is this the director's couch?" And I was like, yeah, it is. And so he sat down and put his arm around me. I mean, this is all in fun. He wasn't serious, and neither was I. However, I was sitting there doing the mounds of SAG paperwork. And so I shut my folder and I put it on his lap, and I said, "Let me know when you're done with this." He goes, "What is it?" I said, "The SAG paperwork. Remember, you're on the director's couch." He laughed, and we all laughed. So, and then the other type of personality we had was Rance Howard, Ronnie Howard's dad. And he knew how to soothe ruffled feathers, and everybody wanted to be his friend. So so we had a wide variety of personalities, from Angela Cartwright, Lost in Space, to Rob and the A-listers. And for the most part, I think actors get a bad rap because most of them, most everyone I knew at the railroad thought they would call them Hollyweird people. And I was like, "Oh, don't say that out loud to anybody, okay?" So, and having Hollywood as a following surely helps you, because Stephanie, as I've heard you say before, it's about perception. And so they surely had a great time laying the voiceovers down, and some of them didn't know each other. However, I would say 70% of them I didn't know were Trekkies. They had done something with Star Trek. So, I loved it. I'm a closet Trekkie, so I loved it.
Okay. You and I have so much in common. I'm a big Star Trek fan, and you and I have national parks in common too. So we just,
yes. So it's all worked out. It didn't happen as, your dreams do not always happen when you think they should happen. They happen when they're supposed to happen. And, it's about being persistent and being patient and never giving up on your dreams. So a couple times I wanted to throw in the towel, but fortunately I have a great support system that says, no, you're not giving up on that dream. And so here we are today talking about it.
Oh my gosh, what an inspiration you are to so many people, and what a different way of going about this. As you said, most people start with the book and
Yes.
hopefully end up with the animated film series. You started with the film series and went backwards.
Right. And and I have to say that, I wrote the screenplays. That was a breeze, I thought, the screenplay, because I could picture each person in my mind who I wanted to play as I was writing. So it was super easy. Then I did the book. That was not super easy for me because I didn't want to give up any of the words I wrote in the screenplay. So it took 3 tries for Christmas the Horse. I'd write it and then throw it away. Then I'd write it and then I'd throw it away, the entire thing, and start over. So, it took a lot of patience to get through giving up some of the stuff I wanted in there.
Oh, that I love that you just said that, because so often people think that what they write first, for one thing, they put a lot of pressure on themselves that they expect that it must be perfect. And certainly, not only does it not have to be perfect, quite honestly, it probably isn't perfect.
Well, now this was not my first children's books I wrote. I wrote Winter Birds of Christmas and Funny Elmer and Everett Covered Bridge. Again, Everett Covered Bridge is in the park, so I kind of have a park theme going. But it's just about, I don't worry about grammar. I don't worry about sentence structure. I don't worry about any of that. I just write. And then I put it down for 3 days. I walk away. Then I come back and go, oh my God, some gremlin must have wrote this. It couldn't have been me. And I throw it away, start over. And then I come back and I was like, who changed this? And so throw it away and come back. And, usually the third try, at least there's some of it I managed to keep.
I love that. That's great advice for writers out there, is get it out on the page, just dump it out, and then step away. It's a great process. And then go back, throw it away, write, step away, go back. Again, not expecting that the first time is perfect. And sometimes the best thing we could do with our art is throw it away and start again.
Don't be, you got to laugh about it. That's why I say, oh God, a gremlin must have came in, or the Puckwanji was at it again. So, you just make fun and throw it away and have fun writing a second time, knowing that, this probably isn't going to be it either, but at least I'm getting all the crap out of the way first.
So Beth, how long have you been writing? Because you named off a whole handful of other books. When did you first start? Were you like 2 and you were writing books?
No, actually, I am a computer scientist by trade. So I never thought I was good at writing except for technical manuals
and gosh,
how-to manuals. So I never thought anything. But in 2000, after I did the films for the Polar Express, Karen Kopchak said, hey, why don't you write a book on the Everett Covered Bridge so we can carry in our store? And I was like, in your store? Who goes in that store? And she's like, 2.2 million people. And I was like, I was speechless. I think it took the wind out of me when she said that. And I was like, you'd carry my book in there? And I said, how come you're not carrying my films in there? And she goes, we didn't know that you had them mass produced. We knew, they were going on television. So we just figured you couldn't, you didn't have the license. I said, really, you think I'd give up the license for my work? No. And so anyway, so in 2007, I wrote Everett Covered Bridge, and about a little boy in a family of great blue herrings that they befriended. And so that was kind of fun. And then my how was it somehow I learned about a family member that had um, a pig farm, and I was like, I have a family member that had a pig farm, and so and they had a prized pig that thought it was a dog, and his name was Elmer, and so I heard the whole story, and I thought, oh, I'm doing a book about Bunny Elmer. So I then wrote a book about a pig, abandoned pig who thought he was a dog, and put that out there too. So a funny Elmer. And then Winter Birds of Christmas is really a takeoff for the Elf Sparkle, the Christmas series. While it's Elf Sophia, who is also in the Elf Sparkle series, it just, picks up where Santa loves the creatures of the forest and does Christmas for them too. So and then I didn't do not another thing until 2010. And that is when I kind of had a surgical accident and I couldn't work. And so while I'm waiting to get well, I started writing other books. And I wrote, my dad had called and said, I'm having so many teeth issues, I'm going to have some pulled. And I was like, well, I'm in the hospital, I can't help you. And so, but then I have a twin. She has pugs, and she's the head of the pug rescue for Houston. At any rate, she says, oh, I just had all my pugs' teeth pulled. And I said, wow, I think somebody's telling me to write a book about a tooth fairy or something. And so my sister said, you better write about a pug tooth fairy. And I said, a pug tooth fairy? Oh, that's clever. That's super clever. And she goes, so she was talking, I said, Dad's having teeth problems too. And she goes, really? She goes, well, you should name it after him. And she goes, Jimmy Paul, the pug tooth fairy. And I was like, oh my God. So I wrote Jimmy Paul, the pug tooth fairy. And that book is also a film. And fortunately, I wrote the book first, and then I did the film. And I used mostly Hollywood, Southern gospel, award-winning, people. And we had a singing bulldog who was Ian Owens with Ernie Haas signature sound, and he was with the Imperials. And actually, the baritone singer for the Imperials wrote the theme music for Jimmy Paul the Pug Tooth Fairy. So that was a lot of fun to write, and my dad gets a kick out of it that he has a movie named after him. But anyway, so that inspired me to write more books. And so since then, I somehow I always bring it back to people I know or relatives. So I wrote Grandma Mabel Rescues Pearl. And Grandma Mabel is my true Grandma Mabel, and Pearl was my other grandma's sister. So, Grandma Mabel is a beaver, and a Pearl is a great blue herring. And she rescues her from her feet being caught in the branches at Beaver Marsh in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So once again, I brought the park into it, and thank goodness no one objected to me using family members. So I wrote that, and then I circled back to Elf Sparkle again and did Santa's Lost Keys. And then, let's see, what did I write? Boy, I can't even remember. Oh, I used somebody I went to school with, Dave Grocott. I was born and raised on a horse farm. So we had a pony that had a colt that was obnoxious, to say the least. And my dad named him Firecracker and couldn't wait to get rid of him. And so he went to a friend of ours that I went to school with, a classmate, and they had patience and broke him. He was still ornery, but he used to grab their hoodies, their hoodie shirts, and pull them back into the water barrel. Every time they were filling the water barrel, he'd pull them back and plop, they'd go in the, so I had seen Dave Grocott, and he said, remember Firecracker? I think I'm going to write a book about Firecracker. And that's what I did. Wow. So, a lot of the books are people I know, and, and how it relates to the park.
Right. Very cool. Boy, I love the way you write for opportunity. And again, so many people write and then look for opportunity. And it actually sounds like you're going in the opposite direction. You're looking for the window.
Yes.
Writing the book for that.
Well, and this is a job. People need to think of this as a job. And so you need to do your homework up front. Is there a place for this? Is it going to sell? And, that's why I center nearly all my books in the park, because 2.2 million go through that bookstore. So, that's why I do that. And yes, there are tons of opportunities to make your book into a film. Hopefully that's the way it goes. Film after the book. And there's so many independent markets for your film that you can make money on, and bookstores, because obviously now they carry my films. So you have to be smart about this. It's great to write for passion. I mean, that's awesome, because I'm passionate about the my Bigfoot series, but it's also a folklore for Northeast Ohio, for the it's called the Peninsula Python, they call them the hairy people, but obviously Bigfoot in the Ohio grassman. And then also the Papunji, which is don't laugh now, a porcupine man. And so, but I have a great outlet that, since everything's in the park, they carry my book. And so I guess you're right. I'm opportunistic, and I know that I'm going to have sales.
I think that that's absolutely fabulous. And I love that you're speaking from that point. I mean, me, besides being a publisher, I'm a professor of business and marketing. So you're really looking at it in that business marketing sense, looking for the market first and then writing what's going to fit there. And how refreshing to hear that.
And I have to say that I do a podcast on the Crooked River Radio Network, which is a local radio station here in Northeast Ohio. And we talk about the folklore, and you would believe the things people call in and say amazing things. So that's where I learned about Sheep Squatch and the Dog Man, and they want me to put them in my books. So, it's getting the word out more about your book series, and, hopefully inspiring your thoughts for writing, about some of the things you're hearing from people.
Right. Oh, fantastic. Great view. So we've got all these children's books. We have films. I mean, I'm afraid of what's coming next. You're going to be an astronaut and shoot off these books into space? What?
No, but I used to work for them. So,
really? Oh my gosh.
Yes. So,
well, no wonder you're a Star Trek fan.
The Johnson Space Center. So, but doing algorithm studies. So, I happen to love math and science, and I love Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica, and I'm just a sci-fi fan. That's all there is to it. So my next for me is to jump into trying my hand, because I write for children's, tweens, and teens, to try my hand at a real, I call them a real big girl book. And I'm sure it will be off of my Forest Guardian series. The last book I did was the Forest Guardians and the Time Grabber, where they go back in time. Two of the characters go back in time, and they meet Bat Masterson. And Bat Masterson was really saving the future for a disaster that happened, but he loves one of the characters that went back in time. Her name was Marcia. So I'm sure they're going to have a love romance. I can feel it.
Okay. So we really are writing grown-up books now that there's a love romance.
Yes, of course.
She's coming full circle. I love that. And I love the way you described it as a big girl book. Only a children's author would ever call that a big girl book.
That's true.
I think that's fabulous. Well, my goodness, the sky is the limit for you. And I know that I don't even have to ask you if you look to make sure there's a target market. You've done your research. You know that.
It's funny because the one of the other people is a descendant of Jonathan Hale, who in northeastern Ohio was the first settler. So, of course, he was around during Bat Masterson's time, and it's called Hale Farm and Village. They have a big museum, and I think it gets about 800,000 people a year. So, yes, I have a market for that one too.
All right, fantastic. Well, Beth, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, but especially for your inspiring and incredibly wise words, because so many people writing are putting the cart before the horse, and boy, are you making sure that you put that horse first. And
Absolutely.
I just want to remind our viewers which horse she's putting first. It is definitely Christmas the horse. Um, you can find Elf Sparkle meets Christmas the horse. You can find Elf Sparkle and the Special Red Dress, and so many other books on Amazon, on Goodreads, and a million different places by Beth Roose. And there's going to be so many more coming up. So you better get started reading, because she is like a writing machine over here.
Oh, I took your suggestion at heart and listening to you on a couple podcasts on rapid fire.
Oh,
So
yes.
this chick's doing rapid fire.
All right. I love that. She's doing rapid fire. She is ready, and she has got the writing chops to do it. That's
Yes.
for sure. Well, I can't thank you enough for your inspiration, because I'm sure that there are authors and aspiring authors out there who are saying, yes, yes, that's what I want to do. That's where I want to be.
I hope so.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us. And please catch up with Beth and all of her books. And happy writing to all of you.